الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. حقا لا إله إلا الله.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. قال الله عز وجل في القرآن المجيد: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. أما بعد. We begin by praising Allah. We ask for His help, for His guidance, and for His forgiveness. We declare that nobody deserves to be worshipped besides the one and only true God, and that is Allah. And we declare that Muhammad was the last and final messenger sent for the guidance of all humanity. Brothers and sisters, people come to me and they tell me the problems that they have in their life. Some people are struggling with their family. Some people are struggling with their health. Some people have lost family members in the earthquake back in Turkey or Syria. Some people have lost their jobs. There are many difficult things and tests that happen to people in this life. What we need to make sure we do is that when we're going through some difficulty, we're going through some challenge, it's going to be hard and you're going to feel it. But if you ask a question, why is Allah doing this? There's two ways to ask that question. The first way to ask that question is to say, oh Allah, I know you're in control of everything, and I know you must have some underlying wisdom behind it, but I don't understand why this is happening. This is really hard. There's a second way to ask the same question, and that is to say, why Allah are you doing this to me? What have I done wrong? This is not fair. A totally different type of why. There's a questioning why and there's a complaining why. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, if you want to do the complaining why, and if you want to be upset about your circumstances or anything else that's happening in the world, whether it's something in your family or something in your friend's family or something that's going on in the world somewhere else, then you need to remember this verse. In Surah Al-Hajj, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in chapter 22, verse 11, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَعْبُدُ اللَّهَ عَلَى حَرْفٍ, that among people there are those who worship Allah on the edge. Now, on the edge means that you're at the edge of something. And when you get very close to the edge of something, you could fall off. If you don't know how to swim and you get to the edge of a swimming pool, you might fall in. If you're on the edge of a high-rise building and you get too close to the edge and there's no railing or whatever it is, you might fall off. So you stay away from that edge because it's dangerous. And then Allah describes exactly what He's talking about. And He says, فَإِنْ أَصَابَهُ خَيْرٌ اطْمَأَنَّ بِهِ. When some good happens to this person, they're happy and they're content and everything's going great. وَإِنْ أَصَابَتْهُ فِتْنَةٌ انقلب عَلَى وَجْهِهِ. And if some calamity, some trial, some tribulation, some difficulty afflicts this person, then they turn on their face. They completely change. They are like, I don't want to be Muslim anymore. I don't feel like praying today anymore. I don't feel like making dua anymore. I don't want to give charity anymore. I don't want to do anything anymore because life is difficult. And Allah describes these people and He says, خَسِرَ الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. He says, this type of person, they lost their dunya, their world, and they've lost their akhirah, they've lost their next life. What does He mean by that? He's saying basically if you have a really bad day, let's say you get a bad grade on your homework, you take a test and you fail your test. Or you're at work and you can't figure out a problem, just having the whole week project didn't get accepted by your boss. Or you got let go. Or something's going on in your life, you got really sick. And you have a really, really bad day. And everyone has bad days. Some days we have good days, some days we have bad days. And if you're having a really bad day, and because of that you say, you know what? And I'm not going to pray today anymore because I'm having a bad day. And it's Ramadan, I'm not going to fast because I'm having a bad day. He's saying you're already having a bad day in your dunya. You're going to respond to that with another bad action. That other bad action is going to be bad for your akhirah. She says that type of person who's having a bad day, having a bad week maybe having a bad month, they're going to respond back and they're going to say, I'm going to also ruin my akhirah too. If my dunya is already going bad, I'm going to mess up my next life too. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes that person and He says, ذَلِكَ هُوَ الْخُسْرَانُ الْمُبِينُ. That is the clearest loss. Like that's like the worst situation you can get. You're going to sacrifice both. You lost one and then what do? Say, I'm going to lose the other one too. This is like, somebody, just imagine somebody, they have like some food. They drop part of their food on the floor, it gets all dirty, can't be fixed. But only half of it got dirty. And you can eat the other half. And they say, you know what, half of my food is gone. Forget, I'm going to throw everything in the trash. It doesn't even make any sense. Because people don't think that way. So Allah is saying, think about that. Do you want to lose both? Or do you want to at least get something good out of the test that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts in your place, in your way? So we as human beings, naturally, we try to rationalize things. We try to understand, why is there pain? Why is there suffering? Why is there torture? Why are there disasters? Why is there disease and plagues and all of these things? And for a Muslim, we're trying to figure this out. Why do these things happen? But for a Muslim, we understand that the answer is quite simple. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing us. And you say, well, some of these things are quote unquote preventable harms. Someone goes and kills somebody else. You say, well, why would you blame Allah? This other person is the one who pulled the trigger. They're responsible for it. So from that perspective, one person is responsible, they shouldn't have done that. But then if you go back to a natural disaster, if you go back to quote unquote an earthquake or a tornado or a tsunami or something like that, then people say, well, what about that? Who's responsible for that? Why would Allah allow something like that to happen? And that's where Islam helps us process these things. What we do is we go back and we say, well, okay, wait a minute. First of all, we have to understand that life is a test. Second of all, we're trying to understand a specific wisdom that Allah has about a particular event. And that's going to be very difficult to understand because Allah has not given us full knowledge. And we have to understand our own limitations and our capabilities. So this is exactly what happened in the life of Prophet Moses, where he struggled with the same thing that some people struggle with today. They're trying to figure out why. Why would something like that happen in this particular instance? Now, generally, we can understand things. We can understand a general principle. But what we do is we go and we decide and we say, I want to know that particular incident. So this is exactly what happened with the story of Prophet Musa and a man by the name of Khidr. Some people say Khidr. Basically, Allah gave a special type of knowledge to this man, and Prophet Musa was told about him. And he said, I want to meet this guy. This is going to be great. And you know, Prophet Musa, when he wants to go meet him, it's not so he can take a picture with him. It's not so he can get his autograph and just, it was so cool. I got to meet this guy who has special knowledge from Allah. Prophet Musa had a greater purpose than that. So I want to go and meet the guy, and I want to enroll into his school, and I want to study with him and follow him and make him my mentor so I can learn something from him. So he goes and seeks him out, and this story is mentioned in Surah Al-Kahf, chapter 18. And he goes to him and he says, I would like to spend time with you because Allah told me that you are somebody who has been given special knowledge that even the prophets have not been given. So what Khidr was doing is he was given knowledge to do certain things on behalf of Allah. So Musa says, I want to see how that's going to work. It's really interesting. So what did the man say to him? He said, قَالَ إِنَّكَ لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ مَعِيَ صَبْرًا. He says, you're not going to be able to be patient with me. You're not going to handle my class. You know, some teachers, they tell you before they, especially in college, high school, you don't have a choice much, right? But college, you have a choice. It's like 3 different teachers teaching the same math class. And one teacher, they're known to be the tough teacher. So you have someone coming and saying, you know what, I'm a tough teacher. I'm going to teach you math really well, better than everyone else. But I grade difficult grading. I give a lot of homework. It's going to be tough. You may not handle it. This is exactly what Khidr is telling Prophet Musa. I don't think you're going to be able to handle this. It's going to be hard for you. And then he explains why. You know why my class is so difficult? He says, وَكَيْفَ تَصْبِرُ عَلَى مَا لَمْ تُحِطْ بِهِ خُبْرًا. How are you going to be patient over something where you cannot have comprehensive knowledge about it? See, if you can't know everything about it, it's going to be very difficult for you to be able to withstand and hold yourself. And then Prophet Musa said, no, don't worry. I'm a good student. I'm a prophet. He's a tough guy. He's strong. He said, don't worry. I can handle it. He said, قَالَ سَتَجِدُنِي إِن شَاءَ اللَّهُ صَابِرًا وَلَا أَعْصِي لَكَ أَمْرًا. He says, you're going to find me, inshallah. He even said, inshallah. God willing, you're going to find me among the people who are patient. And I'm not going to disobey anything you tell me to do. Whatever you tell me to do, I'm going to do all the homework. I'm going to follow it 100%. So Khidr tells him, he said, قَالَ فَإِنِ اتَّبَعْتَنِي فَلَا تَسْأَلْنِي عَنْ شَيْءٍ. He says, if you want to follow me, then here's the rule. You're not allowed to ask me about why I did anything. No asking any questions حَتَّى أُحْدِثَ لَكَ مِنْهُ ذِكْرًا, until I explain it to you. It's not that you're not allowed to ask. You have to be patient and you have to wait till the right time. And this was the problem with Prophet Musa. He wasn't able to be patient. The same way that some of us were not able to be patient about things we can't comprehend in this world. So what happened was, they were going, and first thing he did was he made a hole in a boat of people who were nice. They didn't do anything wrong, and he messed up their boat. And the second thing he did was he actually ended up killing a boy. And the third thing he did was he rebuilt a wall of people who were really mean and inhospitable. So Prophet Musa didn't understand. He's like, these things don't make sense. Why would you do something like that? And let's just look at the first example, because we don't have time in a khutbah to mention all three. The first example was, these people allowed them to have a free ride on a boat. And then the guy goes in the corner and he messes up the boat. Now imagine somebody comes to you and they say, hey, can you help me with my computer? I'm having some problems. So you go, you diagnose it, you do antivirus, you help them log into their email and everything. Say, thank you so much. And when the person turns around, to go get something, you go and you smash their keyboard. You walk away. You're like, the person just helped you. Why would you do something like that? This is exactly what Khadir did to the boat. And Prophet Musa is sitting there like, this is evil. This is immoral. What you're doing is wrong. How could you do something like that? And some of you know the story. And what happens at the end of the story is that Khadir explains, he says, you know what was happening? There was a king that was forcefully taking all of the other ships. And by damaging the boat, I actually ended up saving the boat because he didn't want any defective ships. And they would be able to make it to shore. They're not going to drown. So there was a greater wisdom that Allah had, but Prophet Musa could not see it. And he was told about these things, and he only got 3 chances. And he lost all 3 chances because he couldn't be patient on any one of these things. And then Khadir tells him, قَالَ هَذَا فِرَاقُ بَيْنِي وَبَيْنِكَ. This is the parting between us, meaning you're kicked out of this classroom. سَأُنَبِّئُكَ بِتَأْوِيلِ مَا لَمْ تَسْتَطِعْ عَلَيْهِ صَبْرًا. I'm going to explain to you the underlying wisdom behind the things you couldn't be patient about. Allah tells us this story in the Quran for a reason. We're not going to get to find out in this world the underlying wisdom behind every single thing that happens. Some things we're going to be able to see it in this life. So if somebody loses their job and they say, this is horrible. I lost my job. And how am I going to pay the bills? Rent is so high in Southern California. How am I going to survive? And then 3 months later, they find another job that pays double. And they look back and they say, I would have been stuck in that job. This was the best thing that ever happened to me. And now when they can process it and look back, they're saying that was something that I thought was evil and bad, but it was actually good for me. And I couldn't see it because I didn't know what was going to happen in the future. Same thing, somebody happens in their marriage. Divorce rate is like 40-50% now. Even in the Muslim community, some people look down upon people and all that. And they say, this is horrible, my family is going to be affected and my children are going to be affected and this is really bad. And then later on, a little while later, they get remarried. They say, now I don't have the same stress that I had before. Now I'm actually finally happy with my life. My children are doing just fine. They're readjusting and everything. You're going through that and you're feeling miserable. And then you look back later on and you say, I can see the wisdom in that. So this is one type of wisdom that we can see in life if we get enough time to look back and say, you know what? That was actually good for me. I thought it was bad, but there was some goodness in there. So this is one category where we can see the good in this world. It looks like there's harm in this world, but there's actually good in this world that comes from it. Then there's a second category. And the second category is you have to have true faith in the next life to understand the second category. The second category is where the benefit is going to come in the next life. It's not going to come in this life. And I'll give you 2 examples. There's the example of a lady by the name of Sumayya, who was the mother of Ammar ibn Yasir. She was the first woman to be killed as a martyr in Islam. And then there's the example of Bilal. Bilal ibn Rabah was an African slave who was freed, emancipated, and he became the first mu'adhin in Islam. Right? The first person to call the adhan in Islam. Now look at these 2 people. On the one side, both of them are being tortured. Imagine if you're sitting there, you're living at the time, and you're watching both of them being tortured. And you're looking at that and you're saying, this is horrible. Look at the pain that they're going through. This is so hard. Why is Allah allowing something like this to happen? What could possibly be the wisdom behind that? And then you live long enough and you realize that Bilal being tortured showed his dedication to Islam. He's racking up reward from Allah on the one hand, and 2, he's showing the Muslim community that he's completely dedicated. Abu Bakr comes in there and he purchases him and he frees him. And now Bilal is out of slavery and he's free. Imagine if he lived in slavery for another 10, 20 years or whatever it was. He's already free. And now that he's free, he's joining the Muslims. Then he goes and migrates. And they make him the first person to call the adhan in Islam. And he's well known to be in history. So from that perspective, we say, man, you look at the story of Bilal, all that sacrifice, it was worth it. When you look back, look at all the status that he had later on. He's well, every single person knows him in history books. He lived a comfortable life. Everything was good afterwards, in general. But then you look at Sumayya, and you say, what about her? When we watch her being tortured, and we see what she is going through, and then you see the worst enemy of Islam, Abu Jahl. This guy comes and he stabs her and he kills her. And if you look at it only from a worldly perspective, you say, I can understand the boat example, and I can understand the Bilal example, because he lived a good life afterwards, and he was freed, and he migrated to Medina, and he was given status and honor with the Muslims way more than he would have been stuck as a slave with the people of Quraysh in Mecca. I can understand all of that. But what about Sumayya? What did she get? And we can only process it when we zoom the camera out and we say, she's the first martyr in Islam. And we, in theory, as Muslims, we say, this life is a test and this life is temporary, and she's going to be going straight to paradise because she gave up her life. That is an amazing victory in and of itself. But it's hard for us to process that because it requires two layers. It requires the first layer of patience and say, what's the first layer of Bilal and the boat? Patience of what's going to happen in the future. If we don't know, at the moment we're thinking this is bad. Later on, if you live long enough, you say, oh, that was actually pretty good. It wasn't that bad when you look back. But then you look at the second one, it requires two jumps. It requires two layers of patience. Because not only do you look at that and say, well, where's the worldly benefit? You don't get the worldly benefit. You get the akhirah benefit. You get the benefit in the next life. And for a Muslim, that is an intrinsic benefit in and of itself. So there's a scholar by the name of Al-Izz ibn Abdus Salam, and he wrote a book called The Benefits, it's translated roughly as The Benefits of Trials and Tribulations that People Go Through. And he says, why does Allah test us with these things? What are the benefits behind it? And he mentions several things, and I'm just going to summarize it for you. Number one, he says, to remind you that there is a Lord, you have a Creator, and He's testing you. You are the one being tested. Allah is not the one being tested. Sometimes we think we're in absolute control, cause and effect. If I do this, then this is going to happen. If I wear my mask and I take my vitamin C and I don't shake people's hands and I do everything I'm supposed to do, there's no way I could possibly get sick. I'm going to live in a little bubble. And then all of a sudden, a person somehow gets tested with something else. You say, how did that happen? I followed every single thing I'm supposed to do, and yet I'm still tested with this thing. Because you're not in control. We operate by cause and effect, but it's not guaranteed. So it's a reminder that we're not in control. Number two, it leads to sincerity, and it leads to you changing your life. And if you think about it, any type of pain that's actually going to bring you closer to Allah, any type of pain that's going to bring you reward in the next life, is it really a calamity if you're getting some other benefit out of it? When you go and exercise, there's pain. But you do it because in the long run, you're going to get healthier, your muscles are going to develop and all that. And you say, it's worth the pain. No pain, no gain, as they say. Number three, he says you get to help other people who are in difficulty. There wouldn't be a test in life if there weren't poor people. Then nobody can help them. If there weren't orphans, then you can't help an orphan. Somebody has to go through that trial. So Allah tests people with different things. He tests people with a lot of wealth, and He tests people with a little wealth. He tests people with good health. He tests people with sickness and illness. Allah balances out these tests. Number four, you realize the blessings that you have when they're taken away from you, even momentarily. When you get the flu, when you get sick, a lot of people are getting sick. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cure everyone, myself included. People go through things, and then when you get out of it, you appreciate what you had and you've been taking for granted all this time. But it needs to be taken away from you momentarily, at least for a little bit, for you to appreciate it. And number five is that every time you react to a test in life, you have a choice. And if you react in the right way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to reward you if you have the correct reaction, the patient response, and you trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, hoping for that reward. This is why we do these things. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us and guide us at all times. Ameen. Astaghfirullah li wa lakum wa li sa'iril muslimin fastaghfiruhu innahu huwal ghafurur rahim. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah, wa ba'd. So just to summarize, the basic knowledge that Islam teaches us is that Allah created us for a purpose. And part of that purpose is that He's testing us. And He's testing us with good, and He's testing us with bad, the way that we see it. He's testing us with abundance, and He's testing us with paucity, or having a little bit of something. He's testing us with enjoyment, and He's testing us with pain and calamity. Every single thing is a test. And what matters is two things to keep in mind. Number one, Allah always has a wisdom behind why He gives us a particular test. Nothing is haphazard. There's always a wisdom, and we can understand the general principle, but we cannot always see the exact wisdom in each and every single little tiny thing that happens to each and every single person. And number two, it's our responsibility to react in the right way. And if we react in the right way, we're going to pass that test. And if we're upset, and we're mad, and we're unhappy that we have a test, then you know what? It doesn't take away the fact that you are being tested. If you're sitting there in an exam room and you're upset and you say, the teacher should not be testing us, and you sit there and complain the whole hour, and you don't fill out any questions, you're going to fail your test. You still got to take it at the end of the day, whether you like it or whether you don't like it, because it's the reality. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to show us the truth as truth and help us follow it. We ask Allah to show us the false as false and keep us away from it. We ask Allah, oh Allah, help all those people who are suffering and going through difficulty. Oh Allah, make it easy for them. Oh Allah, all those people who have passed away, you've taken away their lives. Oh Allah, those people who have gone through the disaster of the earthquake or any other disasters that they're going through. Oh Allah, have mercy on those people who have passed away. Oh Allah, cure those people who are sick and who are ill and make it a means of purification for them. Allah, help us and guide us at all times and in all things we do. Ameen. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun ala al-mursaleen. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wa aqim as-salah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
استقيموا واستووا واعتدلوا. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. ومن أظلم ممن افترى على الله كذبا أو قال أوحي إلي ولم يوحى إليه شيء ومن قال سأنزل مثل ما أنزل الله ولو ترى إذ الظالمون في غمرات الموت والملائكة باسطوا أيديهم أخرجوا أنفسكم اليوم تجزون عذاب الهون بما كنتم تقولون على الله غير الحق وكنتم عن آياته تستكبرون ولقد جئتمونا فرادا كما خلقناكم أول مرة وتركتم ما خولناكم وراء ظهوركم وما نرى معكم شفعاءكم الذين زعمتم أنهم فيكم شركاء لقد تقطع بينكم وضل عنكم ما كنتم تزعمون. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. ومن الناس من يعبد الله على حرف فإن أصابه خير اطمأن به وإن أصابته فتنة انقلب على وجهه خسر الدنيا والآخرة ذلك هو الخسران المبين. يدعو من دون الله ما لا يضره وما لا ينفعه ذلك هو الضلال البعيد. يدعو لمن ضره أقرب من نفعه لبئس المولى ولبئس العشير. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. استغفر الله.
Thank you. Feedback right here. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Let us begin, inshallah, by making dua for those who are ill. Young brother Muaz Suleiman, Sharif Sarakbi, Jawid Khan, Rahma Tukarsai, Rahma Tukarzai, Sister Fahim Kidway, Sister Majida Naeem, and baby Dean Adam. May Allah Ta'ala grant them maghfirah and shifa. Ameen. Also, let us make dua for our dear sister Aisha Bibi Madha, who passed away. May Allah Ta'ala expand her grave and fill it with light. Ameen. Special word of thanks and appreciation to our beloved Sheikh Mustafa Umar. May Allah Ta'ala bless and reward him and keep him and protect him and bless him and his family with all that is good in this life and the next. Ameen. Alhamdulillah, another reminder that tonight is our next Friday family night. We'll have our very own Sheikh Muhammad Osman and his brothers Sheikh Abdullahi and Sheikh Ibrahim Osman and their father talking about growing up with the Quran. This is an event for the entire community. Our very own Sheikh Mustafa will be the moderator for this event. This has been a long time coming, so we invite everyone to come out. That's tonight. Please bring the entire family. It'll be right after Isha, so it'll start around 7:45, 7:50 this evening. Also, we are very excited to announce that we have Dr. Ihsan Bigby. He has a Dr. Ihsan Bagby has a table outside. Alhamdulillah, we are very, very excited just to let you know that he has included ICOI as one of 5 masajid in his current research. He has a survey. We ask that you please, that everyone please just stop by his table outside. If you don't have time to fill it out by paper, you can just scan the QR code, fill out the community survey on your phone. This survey is something that could not only help out ICOI, but could also benefit the Muslims around the country, inshallah. So we greatly appreciate that. And lastly, Crimson Coward, they are selling lunch meals outside. We ask that you pay them a visit on your way out. Jazakumullahu khairan for your patience. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.